morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, June 6th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is the Knight of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. One of the things that we see has been a bit of a struggle point right now has to do with the intangibility of some of the expression of the feeling that the energy is feeling in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. What did we see is happening? That ability, that desire to want to ground something, to want to make something into the tangible space. It creates a little bit of a conflict point or a struggle point. And depending on the energies right now, this is having a little bit more of a difficult impact on the masculine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Simply put, that's that moment of the masculine that goes through that difficult work of feeling the tangibility aspect of their own feelings. This is a bit of concentration right now for the masculine energy. That's that moment that potentially feels a little bit frustrating, and it can even create in the spaces of the masculine right now those moments of like overflow or overwhelm or feeling like that sense of an excessive amount of emotionality. Finding a productive or positive place to put it may feel a little energetically difficult at this time. This is a little bit easier for the feminine energy right now because we are recognizing and identifying that the feminine energy is has a little bit more of an easement point in navigating the intangible. So what is the feminine energy doing at this time? They're holding space for masculine energy as they go through those moments, right? They're almost helping the masculine energy through that energetic journey. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, you can see here that a lot of this trepidation here, and this is what is really beautiful. This is work that we see that a lot of the energy is experiencing in navigating manifestation goals. Looking, and I need to stress this, if these are energies that are looking about coming together, right? If there's really that work that's occurring here, but you're feeling like your manifestation goals aren't exactly the same, this is the energy that is almost amplifying and articulating the difference between changing a manifestation goal for the sake of another versus that moment or element of energetic surprise that we receive, which feels like the ability to adjust a manifestation goal isn't so much changing due to the energy is requiring it. It's doing so because the manifestation goal was created or set before the possibility occurred of experiencing and encountering the healed counterpart energy. I know that can sound a little bit confusing, but being able to recognize that, because what we see to a certain extent is some of the energy right now by experiencing and meeting the energetic counterpart. That in itself was the manifestation goal coming forward. And once you come into that modality of experiencing that, there's that moment that almost amplifies that what if, or almost creating that point of adjustment, because that's that energy that you can almost say like, I didn't expect to feel this way. How can one expect to feel something that one hasn't felt before or one hasn't seen before? So we see even now that is that adaptability that is potentially coming to the surface that is amplified in the idea, not changing for someone, right? Not changing for someone, but changing as a result of someone. So we see even now that is creating a little bit of that uncertainty, because that is requiring that introspection, a little bit more difficult right now for the masculine. Because we also see here, if this is masculine energy, that's seeing that feminine energy that is becoming more adaptable. This is also the masculine energy that's trying to affirm to the feminine, and that mindfulness of not allowing one's own emotionality to deviate someone too far off of their own path, right? Like that's almost that act of energetic consideration, saying, I don't want you to have to change for me. And that is the feminine energy, bearing in mind it's not based on gender, but what feels most aligned to, almost amplifying and saying, it's not a change I'm doing for you. I'm doing it for myself because of you, right? Like that is the differentiation point that we're seeing for a lot of that healed energy that is shifting their manifestation goals at this time. Thank you for that gift. While for the masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is that energetic equivalent of not forcing the spring. It is different for masculine and feminine energy right now, because again, if this was masculine energy that was seeking to see a manifestation goal on the part of the feminine and did not receive it brought forth, there's some masculine energies that's just in that modality and separation that is assuming that they're encountering feminine energy that's halfway healed. What do we want to see? What do we see? What do we mean when we see that energy halfway healed? Someone who is observing the past, that is able to amplify and recognize the energetic lessons from the past, but is showing enough of an inability of letting go of the past to be articulated and amplified by talking about what they want going forward, right? That's almost like the masculine seeing an energy that feels like they're still caught on some energy of the masculine from the past that's preventing their own ability of being able to talk towards what it is that they aspire and desire going forward. This is a little bit harder for masculine energy experiencing this, because you can see that a lot of this masculine energy, if in healing, it doesn't feel like the type of energy that feels like it benefits by having a conversation with someone over it. You can almost see that, like that's almost like that painfulness, because that's the masculine energy saying articulating upon that doesn't necessarily change it. It's just more of that observational point. So even now we can see that there's some of this energy of the masculine, if experiencing that, like there's a little bit of hurt here, right? There may be a little bit of that energetic sadness, but this is more of the masculine energy in separation, reaffirming to their own self that commitment of seeing the amplification, of recognizing the fact that that is feminine energy, that's not an act of energetic rejection on the part of the masculine, so much as the masculine is just recognizing that they're encountering feminine energy that's not yet fully healed. So even there, that is the masculine that's like learning through that act of energetic process not to take something personally that's happening externally. While for feminine energy right now, if this is feminine energy that asks for masculine to reveal their manifestation goal and the masculine energy was not able to do so, this is simply the feminine energy stepping away from the masculine. And what is more difficult, and this is why this could be a little bit more volatile right now, if these are situations and circumstances where only at the last minute, as the feminine energy was departing from a circumstance or situation, the masculine's bringing forth that manifestation goal, the feminine energy would almost react in that modality in a place of anger or hurt, because that feels less like the masculine energy volunteering that manifestation goal from a place of desire and authenticity, so much as it feels like it is a preventative measure to prevent the feminine energy from departing, which doesn't feel like it comes from an authentic place. So you can see even now how difficult this could be, because this could be a lot of the feminine energy feeling even more hurt if a manifestation goal is being brought forth in this way, because it feels less like someone who's trying to connect with the feminine energy and more just trying to energetically come up with something in order to potentially maintain and continue forward in some type of like building an emotional or energetic connection. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our Strength card in its reversal. So masculine and feminine energy right now, this is hard. This is vulnerable work. This is what we see here that's occurring. This could really feel, for a lot of the energy and separation right now, this could feel a little like, I'm going to say, some of this like clean slate energy that we're experiencing here, it could feel a little frustrating. I'm just going to be completely honest. For some of the energy and separation, it could feel a little frustrating right now, because this is the energy that is feeling that sense or going through that modality of identifying and recognizing, and this is where we want to see a little bit of energetic support coming in here. That vulnerability is the moment of potentially recognizing something that is almost towards one's own manifestation goal. Because if we are seeing here, and this is that affirmation point, that ability of recognizing that as we move towards our manifestation goals, that requires us to have an ability to say no to what is not our manifestation goal, moves us closer to what is. So we see even now that for some of the energy, potentially feeling that moment, that blossoming that had started to occur here, seeing someone who is, again, the feminine, seeing the masculine, potentially halfway healed, if there's, again, like that ability to be able to talk towards the past, but not being able to amplify in relationality to what they want in the future. This is the energy that's almost reaffirming to themselves that that doesn't mean that they're away from their manifestation goal. That almost reminds them, or has that sensation of reminding themselves and saying that's halfway towards what they're seeking. You've seen halfway towards what you're seeking, right? So that ability of identifying and reminding oneself, this is some of that, like, I want to say this is almost like that oasis effect that we feel. Like this is like that midpoint. So we see even now that that moment of energetic relief and release, while it may be hard, it also feels restorative, because this is the energy that is almost, again, seeing the possibility of continuing forward without that manifestation goal, but not making the choice to do so, feels again like someone who is fulfilling their own path work, because that's the energy that's reaffirming to them their own self of not repeating the lessons of the past by building forth in a place of assumption with counterpart energy. For the feminine energy right now, this is that modality of reaffirming and saying to oneself that, again, a manifestation goal on the part of the masculine doesn't feel like it should be an accomplishment after successfully building an energetic connection with the masculine, so much as the feminine is reaffirming that that should just be a requirement prior to building that energetic connection with the masculine counterpart, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Whereas for masculine, that sense or that space of not wanting to feel like you're guiding a feminine energy away from a place that they desire to be, that feeling of wanting a feminine to want the things that you want, in amplifying and articulating an ability to let something go from the past. Both of these energies are feeling the catharsis and conviction of holding on to their own manifestation goals, but also a little bit of that energetic sadness in letting go of something or someone that they were starting to feel the beginnings of something beautiful occurring in, but they're not seeing the expression of what is required in order to facilitate a path forward. While for masculine, and for a lot of this energy, it may feel, and I have to stress this is like almost even more difficult here, for some of this energy, that separation could almost feel like a surprise, right? That's some of that like shift into the Gemini that we're seeing, because someone being like, where did this come from? And that articulation or amplification point of saying like, it's not where something came from, it's just not seeing what needs to be there. You know, and that can sometimes feel like it's hard to articulate to someone, because that's that moment. If someone doesn't recognize it, you can do everything you can to amplify it to someone, but if they don't get it, they don't get it to a certain extent. This is even more difficult for the masculine energy, because as we indicated, this could be indicative of a situation or scenario where in masculine articulating what they're seeing on the part of the feminine, it doesn't feel like it would necessarily change something. It might make something energetically worse. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, what we're effectively seeing to a certain extent is for the masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now, this is that adaptability point. This is that flexibility point. This is that ability of adjusting and making accommodation that we often encounter when we experience someone who finds an ability to amplify and articulate what their manifestation goals are. Because what we are effectively seeing that for a lot of the energy right now coming into the divine union frequency, it doesn't require the energy to have perfectly matched manifestation goals. That adaptability point is the gift that is offered in the modality or in the moment that one is able to amplify and articulate what one wants for the future, because that allows for an ability to articulate upon it. It allows for a moment of flexibility. And that is why we see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating forward in that work, that modality, that ability of seeing that flexibility point, we're going to stress this isn't energy that is changing their manifestation goals for the counterpart. They are reinvestigating their manifestation goals because of the counterpart. While for the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this could feel a little bit like a moment of energetic frustration, because what we're effectively seeing is, again, the feeling, the energy that is maintaining or holding forth in the divine union frequency right now. That is almost like that amplification of what you're feeling that almost feels like it's hard to put in the tangible space. So we see even now that is that moment, that wanting, that having that an effective energetic change, wanting to put something into the tangible space right now, the ability of not necessarily seeing the energetic space being able to be made into the tangible. It's harder. It makes it harder. So that's why we see that so much of this energy is almost feeling that sense of frustration, but also just allowing themselves to inhabit it, learning through that pathwork of vulnerability, if you will, that sense or that sensation of really just like absorbing and feeling the full magnitude of what they feel for one another. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is 2 cards coming out right now. We've got here, this is going to look familiar because this is the card we pulled yesterday. We've got here our Queen of Swords, but she's in a reversal today in combination with our Justice card. Are you noticing the fact that like yesterday was all about strength? Today we're seeing all of these cards about vulnerability. So what we're effectively seeing, like this is a lot of that resulting of the Gemini. I told you there's going to be a lot of that flipping back and forth right now. It's going to be like day to day to a certain extent. And especially with this, I want to say, especially with this Gemini new moon energy, this might start feeling like hour by hour right now, because what we're effectively seeing to a certain extent is that, you know, that ability of maintaining balance is key right now, right? What do you do? How do you navigate forward? Like what that is like a lot of that energetic lesson right now. How does one maintain balance in the face of something that feels like it's shifting very quickly, right? And so we see that for a lot of the energy right now, that ability, like working through that ability of the self in maintaining internal balance, that has a lot to do with building a sense of self that prevents that ability of recognizing the difference between feeling something that has changed around you versus asking oneself if it's changed within you. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy that's in the divine union frequency, the amplification point, the strength of the counterparts has to do with a lot of this pathwork almost allowing for that sense of similarity, allowing for those moments of just being able to see someone, feeling that effective moment of someone and saying, do you feel that too? And someone being like, yeah, I feel like that too. Like that ability of being able to share, even in those moments of vulnerability, even there we see that allows for that sensation of balance to occur, because that is the energetic feeling, as it were, of recognizing the similarity that becomes the energetic tie that binds. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this has more to do with that flexibility, that adaptability work that we see is occurring right now, that is happening in the divine union frequency. In the energy coming into divine union right now, this is more of a conversation on flexibility, because these energies, what did we see that they're trying to do? They found a place where their manifestation goals potentially overlap. So what are they doing? They are being more flexible to see if there's any wiggle room in terms of making that increase, being able to expand upon that. So these energies are learning about their own interior flexibility point. But what is important about this to keep in mind is these aren't energies. And when you're doing this type of work, this is why understanding the self is so key. Because these aren't energies that are just adapting and changing their manifestation goals simply for the sake of the counterpart energy. It is being able to feel the flexibility point between what one aspires and desires, and recognizing how adaptable you are in relationality to what you're receiving. Like this is a lot of energy going, I think this is my manifestation goal coming through. It's just not coming through in the form that I had potentially expected, right? Like a lot of that surprise energy, if you will. So what is the energy doing at this time? They're trying to discern, by doing the work of the self, what feels like it is an adaptability point versus what feels like it would move them too far off their own metric, move them too far off their own manifestation. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is that energy of catharsis, if you will. This is that energy that even in a moment of stepping away from something, if it doesn't feel like it's matching you in terms of having and articulating upon a manifestation goal, it still feels like an energetic breakthrough, because this is energy that feels like they're holding their firm to the lessons and their manifestations as they proceed forward from this point. If this was feminine energy that's been reaffirming to themselves their own commitment, having learned previous work of not moving towards masculine without that observation of manifestation goal, observing and recognizing that the manifestation goal should not be an accomplishment point after, like, received after building a passionate or energetic connection with the masculine, but rather a requirement prior to. This is a lot of the feminine energy that is feeling that sense of, like, it's not the fact that they couldn't proceed. A lot of the feminine energy feels like they have to make that choice of stepping back even if they don't desire to. But that is the feminine energy that almost recognizes and feels that they're doing the right thing in the process. And that's why we see even now that if this is a manifestation goal that's finally being brought forth to the feminine at a time that they already walked away from the masculine, it almost would feel doubly painful, because that feels less like the masculine being open and authentic in relationality to wanting to move forward in such a way. It almost feels rather like that masculine energy that's trying to find any way, like almost like a willingness to say anything in order to try to preserve and maintain a connection with the feminine. While for the masculine energy right now, again, if this is a modality wherein you are not seeing that manifestation desire from the feminine coming forth, this is a lot of the masculine energy potentially having a harder time speaking to the feminine about this, because we're seeing here that a lot of the masculine energy is just observing and saying, I feel like this is a feminine energy that is only halfway healed and isn't ready to let go of the past. They're still holding on to a past, so much so that they don't want to articulate on a manifestation goal, because that would amplify the fact that the past is closed. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, that also feels kind of energetically painful, because it feels like, again, like that is a feminine that may not necessarily recognize that, but like it almost like comes through as that sense of the masculine taking a bit more of a hope or a wait and see approach, that one day that feminine energy may determine they know what they want enough so that they'll be able to come forward towards the masculine and articulate upon it. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 7 of Wands in its reversal. This is just a lot of calm energy today. This is like just a lot of easement. This is just a lot of that, like, I need to say, like, this is just that, it's giving me a lot of this energy, especially for a lot of the energy in separation. And this is why this is like choosing your peace. It's like choosing your peace, like over anything. And this could be literally the type of energy. What's interesting about it, though, it's like prickly. It's like fighting to choose your peace, like fighting for your peace, like fighting for your peace of mind, if you will. And so we see even now that is why so much of this energy potentially we're seeing in separation. There may be a lot of energy that's continuing to go into separation right now over situations like this, because this is the energy that says the feeling, if it feels like getting a manifestation goal from someone is like pulling teeth, this is like almost the energy saying it doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's the energy that almost again isn't reaffirming and saying like that they're choosing their energetic peace, if you will. They're not looking, and this is why we see even now a lot of that energy stepping back without trying to like wrestle a manifestation goal out of someone, because this is the energy that's either like almost coming into that like c'est la vie approach of saying like it's either there or it's not. It's either there or it's not. It's either present or it's absent. And so like even here we see that a lot of that energy, it's almost like that. It's like that sense of confronting and saying to someone, I don't want to fight about this. This isn't something, it doesn't feel like something that bears an argument. And that's why we see even now I can even see that this could be one of those moments of like, if someone's stepping away from something, and someone feels like, where did this come from? Like, it feels more like that feeling like a switch being hit, like someone being like, everything was fine a minute ago. That's almost because the energy is like, well, no, it wasn't, because these questions were asked, the answers weren't brought forth. And so that's that moment that, again, it has to do with openness. It has to do with communication, and it has to do with clarity. So we see even now that if there isn't that ability to have clarity in relationality to what comes ahead, and these are energies that are almost amplifying that ability to provide clarity isn't coming from a place of commitment. It's just coming from a point of clarity in terms of identifying what someone wants and where they're going. Then we are effectively seeing, to a certain extent, that this is the energetic equivalent, if you will, of the energy just kind of, again, moving onwards. And that ability of, again, the energy and separation, recognizing that these may have been experiences in the past wherein they may have stuck around longer. They may have fought harder. They may have put more energy in a way. That is why we see so much of this catharsis coming through, because it almost feels like that relief, because it's almost the energy saying, like, the ability not to over internalize an external problem, just to observe the situation and let that kind of affirm your path work. A lot of the energy feels like that movement into stating it doesn't have to be that difficult is one that is being amplified within and without, like inside and outside, because that's the energy saying, I'm not going, like, you don't like that. You're making something too energetically complicated if that's not an ability to bring forth the manifestation. And that's the energy saying, I'm not going to stick around and wait for it, because that would be me making something energetically complicated, because these are the energies that are learning on their healing journey not to build into the potentiality of the other. And what do we mean by potentiality? That's that moment of saying, well, if we say to ourselves, well, maybe I know there's not a manifestation goal there, but maybe if I stick around, it'll come. That's building into something. And again, you're building with someone from a place of assumption and potentiality. So even that breakthrough, the energy not saying, well, maybe if, and almost saying, I can't build off if, I need to build off what I see is present. That is that ability of the energy feeling like they're having an energetic breakthrough of the self, because that is the no that becomes the yes. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, this has a lot to do with that feeling of adaptability, because these aren't energies that feel like they're abandoning their manifestation goal for the counterpart. Rather, that ability to speak forward from it, speak freely about it, recognize and inhabit. It's this free speaking, this ability and clarity that they're providing each other is the context through which there is adaptability on the manifestation goals, because those are the energies that are recognizing how easy it can be. While for masculine and feminine energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is more of that feeling of, like, this feels more like that energy of rest and repose, more of that energy today of just wanting to kind of come into a place or space of energetic easement, because this feels like a lot of this energy has been working very, very hard on things right now. And we see even now, like, that ability of trying to ground what you're doing into the tangible space, like that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of energy. So we see even now, like, some of this is almost like feeling a bit today, like that desire or that feeling or that need for energetic easement. Fifth card in our, and this is like almost the energy that like appreciates and builds upon itself, because this is the energy that almost feels like they share in that modality right now. You can see both masculine and feminine in that modality. Like masculine, kind of, I want to say this is a lot of the emotional exhaustion right now for that. This is expressing more as emotional exhaustion right now for masculine, and more, I want to say, more tangible exhaustion for the feminine. That's kind of the best way I can describe it right now, because both of these energies have been putting so much of this work in that direction going forward. It's like, it's giving me like a lot of Sunday vibes. It's like the Thursday that feels like a Sunday, which doesn't, like, I mean, again, considering this is the new moon in Gemini, I'm not surprised to see that. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today. There's a lot of nostalgia here too. this is really, I told you, I was getting a lot of that sense, like, oh, this feels like, it feels almost like this is like giving like the energy of like intermission. Because that's what I mean. Like we've got that double Gemini energy happening. So it does feel like almost like that midway point, if you will. And we see even now that this is like, I feel like today is a day that's very heavily invested or involved with energetic contemplation in how far one has come, right? Like that is that moment, if you will, or what we're seeing here. It really does have a lot to do with an ability, and that's what we remember what we were seeing here for a lot of this energy. That ability of being able to re-navigate experiences from the past based on the perception of the present is a huge gift that is occurring right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency. So we see even now that today feels like a day of like rest and contemplation, like a desire to move into a space or place of energetic easement. But even in that space of energetic easement, we see here that it feels a lot like the type of day of planning and preparation. You know what I mean? Like this is like slower than a lot of the energy that we've been feeling, especially like over the last week or so. But that slowness, if you will, is almost allowing for a bit of thorough contemplation. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency right now, what we're effectively seeing is this is that adaptability. And this is what we see right now that is so intriguing about some of these manifestation goals that are shifting. Because I need to say this again, these aren't energies that are shifting their manifestation goals for the benefit of the counterpart energy. This is an adaptability point that's happening in encountering healed energy, right? The ability to be able to articulate upon a future, to be able to have that clarity brought forth so quickly in partnership or in new energetic connections. That is almost the energy saying, I've never experienced this before. And that's the energy that's like if they haven't experienced that before, saying like, I want to see what we can, like, it's requiring some of those manifestations to change, because that's the energy that says, if you haven't experienced something before, then you haven't considered something, then it's like, it gives you a new optic. So we see even now that that's that moment that is almost being amplified towards what that change is. That helps to recognize and identify like why you're coming into that moment of adaptability now. While for the energy that's in separation, this is going to potentially feel more like a moment of energetic catharsis and or frustration. Because that ability, that amplification of potentially experiencing or encountering someone who feels like they are halfway healed, I can see how it is frustrating. I can see how that is the energy. And I need to stress this, because this is what's important, because the energy is both recognizing, if this is occurring, that their own ability of navigating from it is the energetic breakthrough. Because this is the energy that's almost reminding themselves and looking back and saying, like, the me from like 10 months ago might have stuck around for this. Like the me from like 5 years ago might have put up with something like this. But that's the energy that's almost like, again, reassessing the past and the desire not to feel like they have to relearn a lesson. That is the energy that's now almost becoming a point appreciative for that past, because that is the energy that is referencing the past to remind themselves like why they're potentially moving forward or moving onward from a connection if they're not seeing those manifestation goals articulated. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Cups in its reversal and our Strength card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, I'm not surprised to see this card today. We've got our Magician card and it's upright. But this is what's really beautiful here. This is what's really beautiful for a lot of the energy right now in separation, which is a lot of that energy in separation is not in that modality where they're experiencing or they're coming into that frame of reference of saying, of like make believe. This isn't the energy that's saying like, well, maybe if I stick around, this individual who doesn't have a manifestation goal will suddenly make one appear, right? And that's why we see even now that if this is the energy and this is the masculine, then that's the feminine saying, like, that's the feminine being like, I'm not navigating in the space or place of energetic potential of something becoming something that it's not. And meanwhile, this is the masculine, if in separation, going through that same process. It feels a little bit more difficult for the masculine energy, because this is the masculine energy that's almost saying, like, you know, I don't want to create a space or place if I'm encountering a feminine energy that's only halfway healed. Like, that's a masculine really feeling like they are focusing on not repeating an energetic cycle wherein a masculine feels like they will be misperceived, if you will, by trying to lead the feminine forward into their manifestation goal if the feminine energy doesn't feel like they're able to articulate same, because that's the masculine energy that's almost amplifying and saying, like, I don't want to be in that experience wherein I'm being seen or observed as someone who, like, you know, like someone not navigating in such a way that they have their own manifestation goals, because that's that moment that, again, masculine has experienced those moments that feels like it can turn, right? So both of these energies right now in separation, that ability of simultaneously feeling the energetic frustration of recognizing that you are seeing things that feel like they're improving, but haven't been fully improved yet. Like, the reaffirmation here for a lot of the energy in separation is a reminder of saying, well, if I'm seeing something that was better than last time, if I'm seeing that area of improvement, if I'm seeing someone who, like, effectively is showing an ability to, like, understand and value the lessons of the past, but isn't yet necessarily able to, like, articulate that in their manifestations going forward, then that's a feminine masculine energy basically saying, like, recognizing and saying, well, I'm halfway there. Like that's the energy. Like, that's the energy almost saying, like, I'm seeing the fact that, like, something has changed here, but also recognizing that your own power of observation, your own power of determination, like that ability of receiving what you want needs to also be amplified by being able to articulate upon what you don't want. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is just feeling that sense of energetic confidence in their own self, in recognizing and reaffirming what those manifestation goals are. So a good day to, like, it's a manifestation day. That's one thing. It's a good day to, like, reaffirm what those manifestations are effectively. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, a lot of this energy right now, that adaptability that we see right now that is occurring, has a lot to do with the fact of recognizing and almost articulating and saying and seeing someone who is open, seeing someone who is able to articulate what their aspirations are, what their manifestation goals are. That is that moment that feels almost like, again, a bit of that, like, campfire energy, because that's that moment that feels like the amplification of experiencing and seeing something or someone that even if they don't want exactly the same things that you desire, the ability to speak towards them, the ability to speak towards them, if you will, the ability to, like, articulate and amplify upon them, like that modality there, that ability of doing so, if you will, is effectively and energetically what is allowing a lot of the energy to feel the positivity or productivity in being able to readdress their own manifestation goals, because that doesn't feel so much like you're moving off of your own alignment, so much as you're being more adaptable and curious as to what that manifestation can look like. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, in the divine union frequency, this is the energy that you're already kind of in the heart of some of your manifestation, what we're seeing right now. But what did we see was a challenge for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now? This is the energy that is feeling the magnitude of what they are energetically feeling, and they're feeling a lot of the frustration in trying to bring it into the tangible space. Right? It's just simply that. It's like, it's as simple as that. Like, it feels like those moments, it can feel energetically exhausting, because that's that moment that you're working through something to such an extent that you're trying to bring it into, trying to bring the the feel like you're trying to bring the feeling into the tangible space. And that can sometimes feel like those moments that can be a bit energetically exhausting. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. So again, it's a big manifestation day is what I'm really seeing. A lot of energy today of contemplation, catharsis, and manifestation. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Strength card in its reversal, our Justice card in its upright, and our Queen of Swords in its reversal. Can I have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Wands in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. You know, what we're effectively energetic, like I told you, this is just a lot. Like, this is a lot of contemplation today. There's a lot of planning here. There's a lot of that work in terms of like really being able to navigate not just how far you've come, but where you're effectively going. So I see that there's a lot of work today around planning, a lot of work today in terms of like laying those plans. May not necessarily be a busy work day. Like this feels less like, this doesn't feel so much like busy work today. It feels much more like a lot of that concentration, or this energy is going to be really useful in terms of planning and preparation today. While masculine and feminine, and even here, because we see even now, it feels like a little bit of this like energy here is putting that work in, because a lot of it has to do with some of that feeling of trying to find something that feels like it's more efficient, trying to find efficiencies, trying to find easier ways of doing hard things. Feels like the word of the day today. It's like really about those efficiencies, if you will. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into, and especially, and I want to say this here, the reason we're seeing this is because especially if the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency is already working through their manifestations, that's that idea of trying to like bring something into manifestation, but doing so in a way that doesn't feel like it requires so much energetic like activity, because we see even here like this energy has kind of had some exhaustion points. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is that adaptability point. This is that planning. This is that introspection in relationality to seeing how you and another can overlap. Because these are energies that recognize that there may be some places on the outskirts that they're not exactly seeing the same. But that ability of doing so, that's why we see even now, like that's that moment that identifies and says, is that a moment that I'm moving too far off my own manifestation to try to move towards another? Or is this me feeling the joyousness of being curious and opening up my possibility in terms of what that manifestation could be? So a lot of contemplation here. While masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is a lot of energy that's potentially moving forward right now. If these were spaces and places wherein manifestation goals were requested and they weren't necessarily provided, this is the energy, masculine and feminine, that is effectively, again, reaffirming to themselves that a manifestation goal is not a success metric after an emotional or passionate connection is formed, that it is a requirement prior to one being created. Like that is the energy that's almost again saying like, if the energy can't say, where am I going? Why would I get on that horse? Like that's the energy almost saying like, that's the moment of being like, I need to know where you're going to see if I want to go with you, right? So that's almost how the energy is perceiving this. And that's why we see even now, if there's difficulty there, if there's a lack of clarity in relationality to what destination someone is headed towards, this is the energy that doesn't feel like they're trying to wrestle it out of someone, nor they feel like they're waiting for it. In fact, these are energies that are learning lessons about not building into that world of assumption and assuming something is coming that isn't present. This is just the energy that is recognizing it as it is and moving forward. While for continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between hold on a minute, I've got my cards reversed. Between our Justice card, our Queen of Swords in its reversal, and our Seven of Wands in its reversal, One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Lovers. We love to see this card coming up today. And that's, I mean, I'm not surprised to see it because we've got a lot of that energy. And this is the thing. This is just the thing that's happening right now. And I think that this is really beautiful for some of the energy in separation. The energy in separation is focusing less so on the energetic connection versus what they feel they need to see in a counterpart to facilitate the type of energetic connection that they aspire and desire for. And this is the energy that is effectively amplifying and saying it's either there or it's not. It's either present or it's absent. And so we see even now with the energy moving in that way, this is why we see that this energy, if it's not, if it's not there, we see even now this isn't feminine going like agonizing and saying to themselves, going like, I wonder why this individual isn't able to articulate what they're trying to manifest, because this is the feminine having the light bulb moment and reminding themselves that not all masculine energy is seeking divine union. Not all masculine energy is seeking divine union. Not all masculine energy is seeking divine union. So we see even now that this is the feminine energy isn't internalizing this, isn't feeling that sense of not internalizing an external problem. They're just experiencing it and accepting that. And that is the moment, while there may be that feeling of energetic disappointment because the feminine may have felt like that sense or that hope that maybe, that would it's also, and this is the important thing, it's not the feminine's responsibility to inspire the desire for such a connection in the masculine. This is the feminine almost reminding themselves and saying, my job isn't to be like this kind of situation or circumstance that just meeting me inspires a manifestation goal in another. This is the feminine just saying, you got to bring it with you. They have to already have it. This is the feminine just saying, that ability to articulate on it. You can inspire everything you want in a masculine, but if they don't aspire and desire for the divine union frequency, then that just has to be observed and acknowledged, right? And so that's why we see even now a lot of that feminine energy that feels like, and bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is the feminine energy that's coming into that acceptance points and saying I'm saying no to anything that doesn't feel like it's bringing forth the divine union frequency, because that's that moment that, again, it doesn't feel so much, it doesn't mean there's that need or necessity of building towards commitment or desiring the same exact thing. The divine union frequency requires a desire to talk towards the future in any fashion, an ability to describe what it is that you're trying to build with another. And so even here we see that if the feminine's not seeing that present, then that's a feminine energy saying, the masculine doesn't want to inspire anything beyond what we energetically have right now, right? And that's a feminine just kind of saying, that's not the space that the feminine desires to inhabit with masculine. While for masculine energy, if you're moving towards feminine at this time and you, again, have that desire, you have that aspiration, and you're not necessarily seeing the feminine able to express with that same sense of optimism towards what they're trying to build going forward. For the masculine, this feels a little bit difficult too, because this is the masculine who feels like the reason that the feminine isn't bringing forth the manifestation goal is because they're still holding on to the hope of the past, that they're still hoping that something from the past may reemerge in such a way that it would almost allow for that ability. And that's why that's why the feminine, it's almost like the masculine that's almost observing that's the feminine, amplifying a manifestation goal that they don't want to articulate because it's a feminine energy, talking so much towards the past, but without an ability to talk towards the future. That's not the feminine talking towards the past they've healed from it. That's a feminine energy that's talking towards the past because they're trying to manifest it back. So we see even now that both of those energies, to a certain extent, that's a masculine almost reaffirming and saying, maybe the day will come when that feminine's ready to energetically let go enough that they can articulate what they want going forward. But that's the masculine saying, I can't inspire that in the feminine. They need to be able to take that step for themselves. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now for the energy coming into divine union, this is why we see that this flexibility is there. Because that flexibility, that ability to talk towards what it is that you aspire and desire in partnership right now, that is that place that we see that you guys are already effectively there. Like if you're sitting and you're talking to one another about what that could be or what the shape of that is that moment that what you're really doing is you're defining what that energetic union space is between you in whatever fashion, be it and I'll point it out, it doesn't have to necessarily even be romantic. This could be a friendship. This could be a partnership. This could be, like a lot of these things that we're seeing here. That is that vibration that feels like that harmonious connection because you build one in such a way with someone that it feels like it is easy. It feels like it is effortless. It feels like you are on the same frequency. While for the energy right now that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is something that you share via V with the counterpart. And that is that moment that, again, what feels like it is just like frustrating, what feels like it's hard, is everything outside the energetic connection. And this is why we see even now there's so much of this planning and contemplation that is being made or being reached, specifically due to that desire and need to try to facilitate in making things energetically easier in the tangible space to match what you're feeling in the liminal space. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 7 of Wands in its reversal and our 5 of Swords in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 6 of Cups in its reversal. This card may look familiar because we pulled this card yesterday in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in the divine union. This is, like I said, a lot of the hurdles right now for the energy in the divine union potentially has to do with the energy around the divine union, navigating those spaces and places, if you will, dealing with those, more like, it's like when you're in that frequency, everything else outside of the frequency sometimes feels like it's creating static. So it's like, we're seeing even here, this feels like trying to navigate that static, if you will, because that's that moment where, again, this could be also a day. I need to stress this for some of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency of helping others through their own circumstances or problem. Like this is really about, like, some of this here is really kind of like, it feels a little bit like that help energy, if you will, as well. Because there is something here about that feeling that we're seeing about energy coming towards the divine union frequency, seeking advice, seeking clarity, doing that work that is necessary, because that's that moment that we see even now that feels like you're trying to smooth things over for others who are going through some of those difficulties themselves, right? And that's that's a bit of the gift of the energy in the divine union frequency, because that's that moment that it almost feels like it's like that sense of others coming towards you because they want your energetic take on something, right? It's like it creates a little bit of that because it's like your own perception is such that you see things in such a way that, again, someone else might even recognize and identify, and almost saying to some of the energy in the divine union frequency, I'd like to get your thoughts on something, because that's that moment where it's like the appreciation effect, if you will, in relationality to the fact that the energy around the divine union can almost observe and recognize that is a shared energetic perspective of the energy that's in that frequency. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is that adaptability point. And this is why we see even now why this energy is being so flexible to a certain extent, because this is that modality that we're effectively seeing that is occurring, where the energy is feeling like, even in the discussion of what that partnership could look like, even in that moment of being able to identify and articulate something, that in itself feels like it's energetically healing the past, because you're getting evidence and you're seeing via V, healed potential counterpart energy, how easy it can be, even if you're not on the same page, so long as you're bringing clarity and authenticity to a conversation. While for masculine and feminine energy, this is why this could be a potential day that energy is continuing to move away from some things right now. Because if these are spaces and places wherein energetically, they're not seeing, they're not receiving that clarity. They're not receiving that like, that's that moment of observing and being like, if something's already starting to get energetically difficult at a moment that something is beginning, that is the energy that's almost coming into that state or space of just saying like, that's the observation of, again, not building into that feeling of saying, well, maybe that'll get better later, like down the line. This is the energy almost reminding themselves and saying like, if something is difficult now, it's not going to get easier later. It's just gonna it's going to crank it up to 11. It's like the same, like, it's like, if it's not in the right frequency, it doesn't get better the longer you stay. It's just the problem is going to get bigger and bigger, right? So we see even now like that sense or that observation point, that is that moment that some of this energy is healing just by observing something that isn't going in the way that one could assume or desire it to be, and just making that determinative point sooner rather than later. That in itself feels like a bit of an accomplishment point for a lot of the energy, because that's that moment that feels like your own choice in seeing that present does feel like the breakthrough, because it feels like it's something that you might not necessarily have done before in the past. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Magician and our Three of Wands, may I please have one card to clarify? Clarification. I can't believe how often we keep getting this card right now, but it's always, I gotta stress this, it's always in its reversal. It's been in its reversal. I think we've gotten the Tower in its reversal for like the last 3 days or so. And what's really lovely about that, to a certain degree, again, for the energy that is in separation, the ability to avoid what looks like something that you may have, like, that you can already recognize or identify would have led potentially to a place that you would have kind of walked straight into in the past. That in its own right, even for the energy doing that right now, that feels like an energetic breakthrough point, because that isn't the energy that's like taking that like wait and see approach if they're not seeing something that is there that they desire to be there in a potential counterpart energy. Like, that's the energy saying, I'm not going to like build off of the world of assumption, because that's the energy reminding themselves of past experiences. And that's that moment that becomes a gift, because if there's moments here where you're energetically remembering a time when you may have done that and it didn't lead to a place or space that felt like it didn't come to a positive outcome, then that's that moment that we always have in those the experiences of, again, the gift of the experience of the past that we would never energetically wish for, but that provides us a context of understanding through which we can navigate the present more effectively. So this is almost the energy that's almost reaffirming their own commitment to themselves, not to repeat the lessons of the past. And sometimes we don't repeat the lessons of the past by energetically avoiding those situations and circumstances wherein we feel that would have like caused that state or space of circumstance or issue. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, this feels to a large degree like a moment of like catharsis, like a moment of easement, because while it may be difficult energetically, this is the energy that almost feels like they're doing the right thing. They're staying committed to their own pathwork, if you will, by not repeating the lessons of the past, or utilizing the lessons from the past to like better navigate forward. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energetic equivalent that we're seeing of the energy that is coming into a point of adaptability, because they're already seeing evidence of energy. They're being more flexible because the energetic counterpart that they've effectively navigated with is in such a modality where it's the expression and the ability to talk forward that suddenly allows for the blossoming of all sorts of endless opportunities or possibilities, because there's that moment that, again, these aren't energies, even here, that are moving into like a commitment, but even the ability to articulate on the type of commitment they are seeking and what they're aspiring from in partnership, having that type of open communication. Even here, we see that this is the energy that feels the validation of their own path work, because they're getting an evidence on how easy it can be, which can provide clarity on some of the experiences from the past. And that's why we see even now, like, some of that energy is in the process of talking about their manifestation goals, potentially identifying the difference between what a manifestation goal is versus an experience of something that they're conscientious and cautious of due to the past experience. So we see even now, like, there's a lot of catharsis here, because these are energies that are not only now talking about the future, but they're also talking about the past, right? And through that ability of amplifying the experiences from the past and the present, they're utilizing them to carve out pathwork for themselves. It feels like it is productive and positive going forward. While for masculine and feminine, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this is a lot of the energy just feeling like, to a certain extent, like the manifestation goal, particularly in relationality to partnership, is present there. And that amplification point is such that it really just feels like that modality, or that desire to, like, extend that forward, to share that with others, to be able to, like, amplify and you know, like, build that energetic frequency out to such an extent that it amplifies both on that sense of trying to create what you're trying to create in such a way that it feels like you're able to put that energetic feeling into a tangible place. So that's why we see even now that a lot of that energy, not a lot of activity today, a lot of communication, a lot of planning. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Wands in combination with our Lover's card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Cups in its reversal. Now, like I said, I'm seeing here a lot of the energy of the divine frequency right now. I have to just say it, a lot of this energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, it feels like it's navigating or helping others through some of their own difficulties, like some of their own problems here is what we're really seeing. Because a lot of this, it does feel like this is kind of like there's so much communication today. It's like there's just lots and lots of communication today. And a lot of this is also, it feels a lot like the energy in the divine union, others that are seeking someone's take here, or someone seeking something to help them navigate in such a way, because that's what we're effectively seeing is like that's that observation point of like the energy that's like the positive counterparts not only to one another, right? Like that's the gift here. It's not just the fact that the energy is counterparts to one another, but they're helping others along the way. They're helping others see like what they like. That's why we see so much of this energy almost amplifying that need to communicate right now, because that's that ability to almost go towards others to give that point of insight, to almost help them see in their own way something that might help be able to heal something in a way that they haven't been able to before. So we see that a lot of that is energetically present here, which is very interesting. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union, this is a lot of that energetic equivalent that we are identifying that feels more like that adaptability space. But this is why this is so valuable and important right now, because what are we effectively seeing? A lot of this energy is reconsidering their manifestation goals, because meeting the healed counterpart has allowed for an adaptability point in recognizing the difference between a manifestation goal in relationality to what you were experiencing prior to this versus a manifestation goal you may recognize that you were holding on to because of something that you experienced from the past that you didn't want necessarily to energetically repeat again. So we see even now that these are the energies that are going through that pathwork of introspection, because that is almost like that moment into the opening of possibilities with the right energetic frequency. Right? Like that's that moment that, like, again, and these are the energies that are almost expanding on their manifestation goals by both talking about what it is that they desire, but also going through the experiences of what they've experienced in the past that wasn't what they desired. So even now, like, that's like talking about, like, you know, what works, what doesn't kind of thing. Well, for the energy right now in separation, this is why this energy isn't really sticking around to try to clarify to someone if there isn't a manifestation goal that is present. Because this is the energy that, again, recognizes the difference between the articulation of a manifestation goal at the time that it is requested versus, I'm going to say it again, if someone's trying to bring a manifestation goal to someone as they're like out the door or as they're departing from something. This is like, I can see some of the feminine energy navigating through this. This is the amplification of trying to articulate to someone the difference between honestly saying to someone from a point of authenticity what you aspire and desire versus seeing the reactivity and not providing it, and then just providing it for the sake of keeping the status quo. So we see even now that the energy is almost like there's some energy right now that may be having to communicate this in some way or some fashion to someone to help them recognize the difference between honestly, genuinely being able to express that desire in terms of moving forward versus feeling like you're doing it to try to like keep something or someone from moving, like from going away, if you will. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not a manifestation goal. While for masculine and feminine energy, you know, and while for the masculine energy, this is why we see even now that like that's some of the feminine, but for the masculine energy, this is harder because this feels less like something that masculine can articulate to the feminine. Especially if these are spaces or places where masculine isn't seeing that ability of the feminine to talk towards what they want to manifest forward with the masculine. This is a masculine holding a little bit of that sadness space or disappointment in potentially feeling like that's because the feminine energy is holding on too much from like onto the past and is still like hoping for some kind of aspect of the past to return, which the masculine may be seeing and perceiving as the inability to express what they want going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lover's card in combination with our Six of Cups in its reversal today. One card to clarify, please. I see you coming out. Yeah, this is like, you know, it really is like a sighing kind of energy. Like it really, it feels like, you know, and I think even now, like what's, I need to stress this for a lot of the energy in separation right now. A lot of the energy in separation is simply doing a lot of work in being very energetically fastidious in terms of the type of energetic connections that they're making, right? And this is why we see that so much of the energy in a point of healing, like that ability to articulate upon what one hopes to manifest going forward, that's why it's becoming a requirement. It's not something, it's not feeling like something that is like, that can wait. It's not feeling like something that someone is willing to take an IOU on, because this is the energy that is working very hard on recognizing, not building into the potential of what someone could be or who they could become, but rather who they are showing themselves to be, as it were. And so we see even now that energy working through those moments, if the energy doesn't show an ability to articulate upon what it is that they're hoping to manifest, that's just the energy just accepting that that's the case. And it is a different pathwork for masculine and feminine energy. For the feminine, It's just the feminine energy reaffirming to themselves and reminding themselves that not all masculine energy desires divine union. Like, that's just the feminine energy that's just reaffirming and reminding themselves of that. Like, just putting that in that, like putting that record on and just saying, like, I can't, this is the feminine energy going, I can't assume that the masculine wants the same relationship that I want. I need to hear, the masculine needs to be able to articulate what that is. And that's the feminine saying, if the masculine energy can't articulate what it is, that's the feminine energy going, this is how it starts. This is the feminine almost going, this is how it starts, because that's that moment where it's the feminine's like, it's too great of an energetic risk to build an emotional and passionate connection with someone. And then someone being like, oh, by the way, I'm going this way. And then being like, well, I'm going this way. And oh, well, now we're stuck, So we see even now, like, that's the energy that is trying to, like, not putting that cart before the horse, saying to themselves, I need to know where you're going before I decide if I'm going to make an energetic connection with you. While for masculine, that's that modality of the masculine not wanting the feminine not wanting to feel like they're leading the feminine down path work if the feminine doesn't know where they want to go, and then the feminine saying, I never wanted to be here. Like, that's the masculine saying, I need the feminine to be resilient enough to be able to amplify their own need or desire in terms of where they're, like, what they want and where they're going. And that's almost the masculine coming into that point of sadness, because if they did that work of being vulnerable, and if the feminine couldn't do same, then this is almost the masculine feeling the weight of, especially if this was a connection that was forming from a feminine that's just talking very much about the past unhealed connection. This is almost the masculine saying, I don't think that you're over that energetic connection. I think you're still waiting for it to come back because you're not articulating what you want going forward, right? So and that's a little bit harder of a conversation for the masculine to say, because that's something that, like, we see even now, like, that articulating on that doesn't necessarily change it. It's more something that is observed. Continuing to get clarification on these cards, and that might be more energetically heavy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Tower card in its reversal and our Two of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation here. This is like why, and I'm going to say here, like, this is some energy that's just kind of like stepping back or stepping away from something, because again, this is the energy that if it's not there, if that ability to articulate, if that was asked for and not received, like, it almost feels like that's the energy that's like, feels like they take that as the answer. Like, that's almost that moment that feels like no response is a response, if you will, right? Because that's the energy that almost like moves into that state or space of, like, again, not even necessarily sticking around to try to inquire as to why. This is also the energy that's reaffirming and saying, if asking for a manifestation goal, like, is severing or ending an energetic connection, then in a way, the manifestation goal has become the act of energetic protection, right? like that's like the energy that's just like the manifestation goal is going, you're welcome, like, thank you, because like that's that moment of recognizing that that's the manifestation goal, just going ahead and put some wings on that sucker. Like, that's the energy doing its job, if you will. If all it took to create that conflict point was simply asking a simple question as to, like, what direction someone wants to move into, like, that is that moment that's like, I guess, like, that's almost like the energy that's seeing that as a positive, right? It's almost seeing it as a positive. So we see even now that while that's experiencing it, the ability to, like, feel like that is occurring and not allowing oneself to feel like you're like, not letting, like, moving away from something that you feel it isn't for you as you continue forward as to what is. Like, even in that moment, this is energy that feels like there's catharsis there, because that's, like, the way to find something is to find out what it's not. So this is the energy that's like recognizing and saying, I guess it's not here, right? So that's that moment that feels like, again, a breakthrough, because it's just that acceptance point. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, that modality, that experience, that ability to build forth right now, that flexibility. Suddenly we see here that there's energy that's taking into consideration their manifestation goals. Why? Because they're in connection with energy or an individual that is showing an ability to be open and speak towards it. Like, this is the energy that's in the healing frequency, identifying themselves by an ability to do so. And that openness, that positivity, that simply the ability to talk towards what one aspires and desires, but also recognizing that you're not necessarily putting a commitment immediately on it, but you're talking towards what that commitment could look like. This is the energy that's feeling a breakthrough, because that feels like a lot of the energy coming into divine union already feels like they're seeing their manifestation in action. They're seeing the results of it. They're already seeing something there that they didn't receive before. That moment feels like it creates a flexibility point, because suddenly you're receiving something that you asked for, that you hadn't received before, but you had to move away from what wasn't that to be able to find it. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency today, this feels like this is a lot of helping others today. I just got to stress this. This is because what we're seeing here is we see that a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, you're working, like there's a little bit of this like energetic pause point that we're seeing right now that feels like the amplification of exhaustion energetically in trying to put things into the tangible space. But we also see that there's a lot of communication here. So this is going to be a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, navigating spaces and places of planning, coordination, and then potentially also speaking and assisting others today with their own energetic hurdles, like working through those processes. I see that there's a lot of that. There's not a lot of tangible activity today, a lot of communication today, like a lot of communication. It's a Gemini energy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Cups in its reversal and our Five of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Yep, that's good. We got our Page of Swords back again. Masculine and feminine energy right now, in the divine union frequency. Like, this is small stuff today. This is what's so interesting about this energy, because the energy in the divine union frequency right now, it's like, this doesn't feel like the type of energy that you're doing anything monumental today, because there's a little bit of this exhaustion. So this feels like a little bit of this, like, this is like, it's giving like side quest energy. It's giving me like it's giving me like small little things today, like just knocking a bunch of things off of the to-do list, doing like all of these, like these small things, but like that sense of the accumulation, like just all of those little things that need to get energetically done. And I see even why, even here, this is even in the realm of like helping others to some degree, because that's that moment that it almost feels even now like that is the expression of the energy that like isn't trying to like put so much of that effort into the tangible space right now, but that ability of communicating in such a small way as you're doing something, like that is almost like that amplification of that energy right now. It feels like it's like that helpfulness, if you will. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union right now, this is that adaptability point, because this is the energy that's talking about the manifestation goals, but the ability to communicate on the manifestation goals is immediately bringing up the experiences from the past. So we just see, again, a lot of that communication, because this is the energy that is almost feeling the relief. You can almost see here, like a lot of the energy maybe even saying to one another, like, thank you. Like, thank you for articulating what it is that you want. Thank you for the clarity through which you're amplifying what it is that you're seeking, because that is the energy that doesn't feel like that is like a letting go process. That is an energy that almost is feeling that sense of conviction and feeling that sense of like energetic, like amplification in recognizing and almost feeling the sense of seeing something that was present that wasn't experienced before. Feels like for a lot of that energy coming into the divine union frequency, it almost feels like that, like pat on the back, you know what I mean? It's like that pat on the back that one is giving to themselves and saying like, okay, I see that something is moving in the positive direction. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is why we see like, and this is why we see even now there might be a little bit of this like curtness or the shortness or something like, you know, just reaching a conclusion point at this point, because like a lot of this energy, if there were manifestation goals that were requested and they weren't received, that's that energy that's almost, again, if this is and this is why we can see that this could even be some of that volatility that we're seeing, especially on the side of the feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. If this is a manifestation, there's a difference between receiving a manifestation goal versus someone trying to deliver a manifestation goal at the time of one trying to depart from something, right? Because one is coming from a place of authenticity and the other is seeing the reaction of not giving something and then trying to rush ahead to provide anything to preserve an energetic connection. And that's why we see so much of this energy right now. If someone is trying to bring forth a manifestation goal at a time that someone has already made the determination point of stepping away from something, we see that that could be some of that volatility, because that feels like the difference between something that comes from a place of authenticity versus someone just trying to do anything to maintain the status quo of a connection. While for the masculine, this is a little bit harder because there's a lot that the masculine may want to say around circumstances of this nature, but they may not necessarily feel open to do so. Because if these are spaces and places, you know, wherein there was that point of communication, there was that like that identification space, there was that space of potentially not seeing a feminine being able to bring forth a manifestation, then that's almost the masculine. It feels like that feminine's not ready to energetically let go of some kind of experience from the past. And that's the masculine having that energetic hope potentially that the day may come that the feminine may be ready to do so. Final card in today's spread between our Two of Wands in its reversal and our Page of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Pentacles, and we love to see it. So, you know, I have to say, even for some of the energy right now in separation that is going through these processes right now, this is that moment. I told you, like one thing we navigate forward on when we're trying to manifest is the recognition point that our no is our yes. That when we say no, like in order to move towards our yes, we also need to be able to recognize and amplify what our no is. So we see even now that for some of that energy, even if there's spaces or places wherein you may be like moving away from something right now, because you're not seeing what you need to see in relationality to being able to see and recognize what that manifestation goal is from another, this is the energy that feels effectively like they're moving towards what they know is for them, because this is the energy that's holding on to the affirmation of saying, I'm choosing the energy that knows what it is that they want going forward. Like that is almost the energy that's recommitting their own sense of knowing. Like that is a moment that feels reinvigorating, because that's feeling the confidence. It doesn't feel like you're stepping away from something. It feels like you're choosing yourself and you're choosing what you know that you want in relationality to partnership. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, and that's the energy that's actually holding and maintaining their own standards, if you will. And if something is, you know, reaching a limitation point, like that's the energy saying, I have standards. Like that's the energy going, I have my standards, and that is what they're maintaining. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy even now. If there's adaptability here, there's adaptability because there's been a breakthrough. And that breakthrough, I told you, is the overlap between what one person desires and what another person desires, because they're in that place of being able to speak openly about it. And that's the energy that if they're experiencing that, that feels like they're receiving a manifestation goal, because even if you don't desire the same things, you're seeing the quality and characteristic of what you need to see in someone that shows evidence that it is such a thing exists, that it is possible. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is coming into the divine union right now, what we are effectively energetically seeing has to do with a lot of that energy just being helpful today. I'm just seeing this. This feels like that type of energy of not wanting to take on anything very large today, like that sense of not wanting to do anything. Like, this isn't like lifting mountains kind of day. This is like picking up small things, doing the small, like a bunch of like lots and lots and lots of small things today is what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of that type of energetic frequency, because again, it plays very well like to the adaptability of all the Gemini energy, which is like allows you to change things very rapidly, right? So when you're trying to change something very rapidly, being able to do a bunch of little small things today, this is like a lot of that positivity, because that's going to be very amplified and very helpful today with this type of energetic frequency. Bottom of the deck on today's reading is Judgment in its reversal. You know, and I gotta tell you, I'm not surprised to see this card, especially today, because, and we saw this card yesterday in the same position, actually on the table. That reconsideration, like that adaptability, right? I need to point this out, and this is where we see, like, this is either the amplification of the positivity point of the Gemini energy, which sometimes can become frustrating, right? Because in its positive, adaptability means an ability to adapt very quickly to different situations, right? Like that ability of changing. But when it's not in its positive place, this can feel like fickleness, like something or someone that is too changeable, too adaptable, too flexible, right? Which is why we're saying that a lot of the work today is about remembering. And that's why when we're talking about those manifestation goals, it's so important, is being able to articulate upon the source, like your own, like holding your own center, if you will, that helps you recognize the difference between being able to be adaptable about something, like seeing something from a different perspective, versus becoming too energetically changeable, right? For masculine and feminine energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, you know, this is some of that, you know, energy of like, it's like literally, I keep seeing this coming up. A lot of the time frames that are happening right now in the divine union frequency has to do with like the energy outside of the divine union, feeling surprised about things or feeling like something's happening very quickly. While the energy inside the divine union, things are moving much more slowly. Like, and that's why it's like that moment of being like, it feels like being mindful of the experiences of others in that way is really important. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is why we keep seeing, like, this is why it takes so much contemplation, because this is an energy that is changing. I'm going to say it again. They're not changing their manifestation goals. They're not saying I'm going to throw my manifestation goal out the window to be able to be with an energetic counterpart here. This is the energy that is almost articulating the difference between what they feel they're flexible on versus what they're not, because that is that introspection point we said that feels more like adaptability in terms of something that doesn't feel like it gets you off of your own center, versus that moment that you feel like you go too far and suddenly you kind of like, you know, lost your own sense of self. So that's why we see even now it's really important in that kind of conversation to be very grounded in who you are so that you're able to identify what you want. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, I said it again, I'm going to say it again. If these are spaces and places where manifestation goals are only being brought forth at a moment that someone has already kind of exited the scene, if you will, this is the energy of some trying to affirm and clarify to someone the difference between presenting a manifestation goal at the time that it was requested versus seeing the result of not providing one and then suddenly trying to provide one to bring back status quo. So we see even now for a lot of the energy, someone being like, but I'm giving you what you asked for, being like, no, you're not. Like that might take a little bit of refinement and clarification. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a couple reminders for everyone who's joining us today. First and foremost, I would like to invite you to join me on June 19th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the continuation of our Tarot Education Series, Tarot Church. The next card that we are going to be focusing our studies on is the High Priestess card. We've previously done both the Fool card and the Magician. All you need to do to become a part of those classes is become a paid subscriber to my Substack, gracestrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription will grant you access to our live class on the 19th, as well as recordings and course materials for all of our previous classes. So if you missed any of our classes, never fear, you've got plenty of time to catch up. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to our studies. And if you become an founding member to my Substack, not only do you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship class with me where we will assess where you are on your own tarot journey, and I'll give you insights on how to best utilize the classes and your own practice to your best potential going forward. One of the things I tried to do with these classes is make them so that they would be useful to both the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's a bit of something there for everyone. So I want to thank you already to those who are already taking that class, and I look forward to seeing you potentially at our next one. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to be able to stay updated, receive our weekly newsletter, which provides a schedule of when I'm live, as well as any updates on new offerings and events that we may be participating in. Second of all, we are in the middle of doing another giveaway. I'm giving away not one, but two free 15-minute tarot readings, and all you need to do to become a part of that giveaway is head over to my link tree. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway. But if you've already taken the giveaway and the survey and would like additional entries, all you need to do is refer that survey to a friend. The more referrals that you provide, the more entries that you will receive, because when I pull the winner for the survey, I will be inquiring who referred the winner to the survey itself. So I will be giving away a free reading to both the winner and the referee. So thank you so much to those who have already taken that survey. As I've mentioned, we're looking forward to doing some potential tarot themed retreats in the future. I have a few ideas on where we might want to go, but I'd love to get your feedback. So thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck in winning that giveaway. Finally, I have some new offerings that I'm now offering to my clientele. First and foremost, we are now offering tarot mentorship classes. Those classes can be purchased either on an individual level or on a monthly basis, so a discounted rate on 4 classes, 45 minutes each. Those classes can be focused on any subject of your choosing. I individually customize them for each student, which is why I take a very limited number on. If you are interested in becoming a part of a mentee, all you need to do is head over to the link tree in my bio. You will see the packages there. Second, for those clients that are now seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm now offering weekly tarot insight packages. So that is a discounted rate on 4 30-minute readings, so that you may have more of a scheduled routine practice as it relates to experiencing and exploring your own personal journey. Again, I want to thank you guys so much. The reason I'm offering these services is from a lot of advice from you. So thank you so much. And if you have something that you would like me to offer, feel free to email me at gracestrega@gmail.com. That said, I'm very happy to be able to move into personal readings now. I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day, and we will do this again tomorrow.